Crisis Radio. Now, what you just heard and what you've been hearing here week after week, the growth of the Tax Wall Street Party and the United Front Against Austerity, this should, I think, indicate that, for example, Paul Craig Roberts, speaking to the Russian Academy of Sciences on February 28, 2015, is too pessimistic and indeed not giving a clear picture to the Russian distinguished audience at the Academy of Sciences when he says that the internal U.S. political perspective is hopeless. He says the message is that the constellation of forces, meaning in the U.S., precludes internal political change. Well, that remains to be seen. And I told Paul Craig Roberts in 2007, when he was essentially prophesying inevitable war with Iran, I said, wait a minute, there may be countervailing institutional forces inside the United States. And between 06 and 07, maybe this was more in 06 that I had this exchange with him, you can see that there were countervailing forces, and the Republicans losing both houses of Congress and so forth, all of that is something that you have to factor in. So that's one thing. Now, one other interesting domestic or international item. Noam Chomsky, our dear friend Gnome was cavorting with his dear friend Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! And essentially Gnome was talking about this situation with ISIS in Iraq. Syria, he talks about less. He doesn't seem to recognize it. But Gnome comes out and says, and I quote, ISIS represents, quote, the legitimate demands of the Sunni population, which is what ISIS is protecting and defending and gaining their support from. I don't know what the headline for that would be. Gnome joins ISIS? I don't know. Gnome says Shiites are worse than ISIS. And of course, Chomsky says no conspiracy theories that the U.S. is supporting ISIS. I feel like I'm personally involved there. Conspiracy theories that the U.S. is supporting ISIS, I guess that would be me, not as a conspiracy, but just empirical fact. How about empirical fact? Also, Gnome seems to think that Jihad John of Britain, he's like the guy in West Side Story, right? He's depraved on account of he's deprived. In other words, the poor guy, he was mistreated, he was beaten up, he was humiliated, he was harassed, and therefore he starts decapitating people. That's another one. Also, Gnome, again, seems to have a great dislike of the Mahdi army and Muqtada Sadr. Those are the bad guys for Gnome. So, again, this is a very, very distorted view of what's going on in the world. So the Gnome fans, please, you have to revise your situation. Now, we've also got the Hillary emails. How about this? Petraeus has now been forced to plead guilty to a misdemeanor for having classified information and in his black books and giving it to his paramour, Broadwell. Deutsch of the CIA was given a really hard time because he had secret documents in his laptop, home computer, whatever it was. Sandy Berger put documents in his pants and got a very hard time out of that. With Hillary, I think what we've got here is this reinforces the tremendous vulnerability, the tremendous instability of the Hillary candidacy. She's a Wall Street puppet. She's a warmonger, a neocon, always the biggest warmonger in the room because of her weakness on what she thinks is the woman question, which she thinks is a question. And then the secrecy, right? If you're a Democratic Party leftist and you're anti-NSA and you don't like snooping and you don't like this stuff, this obsessive secrecy, I think, is going to be a big problem. She says she's given in 55,000 emails, but there are still tens of thousands of other emails. So what is she going to decide? And remember, we don't need emails to condemn Hillary Clinton. All you have to do is watch that 15 or 20-second video where she says, "We came, we saw, he died," meaning Gaddafi was assassinated, and then dissolving in cackles. That ought to be enough to rule her out in the Democratic primary. Speaking of this, here in Maryland, we now have a big political earthquake going on. Senator Barbara Mikulski is quitting the Senate after 28 years. She, of course, pioneering feminist in the Senate. Otherwise, the hopes have remained greater than the reality. But now we're going to have a Senate campaign in Maryland. We're going to have a House campaign in Maryland. And we'll have other campaigns as everybody tries to move up a notch. Even reports of people leaving the district to come over to the Maryland side. So we would have to say that the Tax Wall Street Party is studying the Maryland situation very carefully. Stay tuned. We'll have news about this in the coming time. Venezuela has cut the staff of the U.S. Embassy, and well, they might. If you don't want to have a color revolution, you better PNG a bunch of these people. And I think I mentioned the questions for Netanyahu were, is he going to give a speech in the parliament of every one of the Perm 5+1? Now he's done the U.S., he would have 5 more stops. Apparently not. Is Obama going to go and give a rebuttal in front of the Knesset? Certainly an insult to the United States institutions that Netanyahu has carried out. And, of course, the worst thing about Netanyahu is he has essentially two positions. First one he says is what he wants is that Iran be prevented from having the capability to build a nuclear weapon. Now, the capability is widespread, right? Japan, Italy, Germany, lots and lots of countries, Brazil, South Africa, on and on, right? Indonesia. Lots of people have the capability. If you say, I don't want you to have the capability, it's a way of saying, I demand that you remain underdeveloped, backward, third world country forever. Who's going to accept that? And the other side of it is, well, if I can't have that, I want the U.S. at war. Sorry, the American people are sick of wars, especially Middle East wars. The other interesting thing, I don't have time to go through it all. If you go to my Twitter feed, you're going to find a compendium of all the times that Netanyahu has made these sweeping predictions. It was in 2009 that he told the delegation, the Iranians will have an atomic bomb within 1 to 2 years. Well, that would have been 2011 or 2012 at the most. But no, he has been making these predictions, crying wolf, building up hysteria and fear. Netanyahu has been doing that since the 1980s and the 1990s. I can remember seeing him on Ted Koppel's Nightline in the mid-80s, already predicting the apocalypse. He is a discredited fearmonger. That's all he is. And we're hoping for Lapid. We're hoping for the lapidation of Netanyahu. No 4th term. And then we have the Herzog-Livni combination. Just about anything would be better to break the hold of this sociopathic individual. We're told that there's full employment in the U.S. 5.5 is not full employment. We'll talk about full employment more in the coming weeks. So we'll see you soon on World Crisis Radio.